Make sure you get the right model for this, as this is completely different to the original 800. Let me tell you why. The reason why I have not published my review earlier was because I needed more time with testing. Yonex was very kind to provide me with a test racket in my usual spec of 4UG5 a while before the launch date, but I wasn't happy with how testing had went over many sessions. That's when I went back to Yonex to request for another test racket in another spec in 3U before resuming the testing. Hence this delay. There's no point for me to be the first to publish if I can't provide you guys with the correct information. I value accuracy over speed in this instance. Many of you that followed my channel for a while will know that I have a soft spot for the Nanoflare 800, as it was one of my favorites when I was deciding what was going to be my personal racket at the start of 2021. It came down to the Astrox 88D Pro or the Nanoflare 800. I ultimately went with the 88D Pro because the UK doesn't have a 3UG5 version of the 800 back then. So in essence, I have a lot of high hopes for this new generation of Nanoflare 800 Pro from Yonex, and at first glance it looked incredible. The paint job from the 800 Pro is very impressive, with an understated green with holographic strips around the frame. But my favourite area of the paint job is on the racket shaft. At the top, Yonex's design team transitioned the 800 Pro from the matte paint job onto a clear and transparent coating closer to the cone of the racket. This made me thought the shaft was see-through before transitioning completely onto a glossy green segment on the racket cone. It's pretty cool indeed. Obviously, I have seen the leaked photos before I got my hands on the real thing, and the real thing looked so much better than the photos. Even here, I hope my video will be able to showcase the actual paint job of the 800 Pro properly and do it justice. Make sure you turn on the highest resolution you can for this. In terms of racket design, the new 800 Pro's design philosophy is completely different to the original 800. Yonex have heavily translated the 1000Z's design onto this new 800 Pro. Visually, you will very quickly notice that the super thin razor blade frame from the original 800 is gone, replaced with the very wide frame which is identical to the other Nanoflares such as the 700 and the 1000Z. Also check out how big the T-joint is on this new 800 Pro compared to the previous generation. Additionally, the compact head frame design from the original 800 was also replaced with a more traditional frame size too. Yonex mentioned here that there's a new stringing pattern, and those with the eagle eyes will also notice there's an extra cross string on this 800 Pro compared to the original 800. Generally, Yonex badminton rackets have 22 main strings and 21 cross strings, in simpler terms a 22x21 string pattern, but this 800 Pro has an extra cross string, making it a 22x22 string pattern. In some of the marketing material, Yonex also mentions that having that extra string is to provide a tighter stringing pattern to stiffen the hitting feel of the 800 Pro. Visually, there's not much difference in gaps or density of the strings in comparison to the original 800, but if you're comparing with Yonex's other high-end rackets, such as the Astrox 88D Pro, there's a clear difference there. I'll talk about the playability of the 800 Pro a bit more later in the video. Remember to protect your precious badminton rackets with the premium racket protection tape from ckYW.com/shop. The better looking the racket, the more painful it is when they get chipped or scratched. Have peace of mind and get them protected. Free shipping worldwide. In terms of measurements, the 800 Pro differs greatly from the original 800. If we start with the racket frame, the frame thickness of the new 800 Pro is 3mm thicker than the previous generation. The frame size, including its height and width, are also taller and wider with the new generation at 23.8cm in height and 18.5cm in width. Obviously, as this is a Nanoflare racket, the frame has a fully recessed profile. In terms of the shaft, the 800 Pro has a slightly shorter shaft compared to the previous generation, coming in at only 21cm. Whilst the diameter of the racket shaft stayed approximately the same at 6.9mm, the taller racket frame had also resulted in a slightly shorter racket handle this time round, coming in at only half a centimeter shorter for this generation at 17cm. Almost every measurement of the 800 Pro was identical to the 1000Z. The 1000Z had a shorter frame height for its compact head and a longer handle compared to the 800 Pro, but everything else was identical. For stringing, the 4U model of the 800 Pro is rated to 28 pounds and the 3U model to 29 pounds. As I had both the 3U and 4U models racket for testing, I strung both of them with my usual string setup of Aerobite at 27 by 29 pounds. The 3U model felt very solid during stringing, but for the 4U model, I would be hesitant to go much higher than 27 by 29 if you're looking for longevity. The new grommets also feel nice and premium but are very flush and well fitted onto the racket, it feels like you won't get a pretty thick string through, as there's not much room around the grommet after the string is pulled through. Also, because the original 800's racket head is slightly smaller compared to the newer 800 Pro, it will also have a higher pitched sound for strings strung at the same tension compared to the 800 Pro. Some of you will also notice the original 800 have 4 sets of single pass grommets at the top, whilst the 800 Pro only has 3 sets, in line with many other Yonex high-end rackets. So we arrive at the crucial question: is the new 800 Pro as nice as the original 800? The answer is, it's complicated. I'll be honest and start by saying I really struggled with the testing of the 4U model of the 800 Pro, and hence I reached out to Yonex to request for a 3U model, and the difference was night and day, at least for me. In short, the original 800 was a super fast, super buttery swinging, counter-attacking machine. In 3U weight, it is one of my personal favourites, and I felt that I had amazing control of the shuttle at any time, anywhere on court, even on off days. Getting out of trouble was always fairly easy, and I really enjoyed playing with it. It made playing enjoyable, fun and exciting. There were not many rackets which I would go for 3U nowadays, but the original 800 is certainly one of them. However, the new 800 Pro feels entirely different to what the original 800 was. Yes, it's fast, but the new 800 Pro certainly felt more similar to the 1000Z, albeit in a slightly different feel, but still had a high amount of repulsion. By changing the razor blade frame shape to the current trapezoidal-like frame on the 800 Pro, this increases the stiffness and stability of the frame against warping and torsional forces when the shuttle comes in contact with the strings during the swinging and hitting phase. However, by increasing the stiffness and rigidity, it also means that there's less room for errors for us players to a certain extent. Additionally, by also increasing the density of the strings, this also means that the 800 Pro's stiffer string bed isn't necessarily going to be everyone's cup of tea, and it reminded me of the old school Forza 96 hole rackets with a 24x24 string bed. Nowhere near as bad as those, but those rackets were A pain to string with, B feels fairly dead, and C, the string never breaks because of the dancer string pattern. Personally, I think B and C might be applicable to this 800 Pro slightly, as I didn't feel that the racket was quite as forgiving as the original 800. Especially in the 4U model. The increased stiffness in the string bed for me had reduced the control and feel I had with the 4U 800 Pro, as it did not have the head weight enough to carry the shuttle through shots that were off sweet spot. I want to feel the shuttle when I'm driving with it, but the stiffer string bed with reduced head weight on the 4U makes it fairly dull and slightly dead. Not too much fun in that instance. If you have been hitting with the original 800, you'll find the 800 Pro to have a different hitting timing too. The increased timing demands on the lighter 4U model is certainly quite pronounced, and you'll have to really focus on your finger squeeze timing to get good contact with the racket. And also, there's not a lot of power at all with the 4U, so you're not going to be hitting through people very easily. This is certainly a racket that's looking for the 3rd and 5th shot in rally and beyond. Over the multiple sessions and locations I've tested the 4U 800 Pro, I found that on more slippery venues I'd struggled more with the 4U 800 Pro. And this again ties in with the less forgiving nature of the 800 Pro string bed, as well as the increased timing demands. However, a lot of these problems are significantly reduced or even eliminated in some cases with the 3U model. Because of the extra swing weight from the 3U, I was able to carry more racket weight and more bite onto the shuttle, giving me more control, especially in 50-50 situations. Because of this, the sweet spot for this racket is the 3U for me. The added control, the added power, and the negligible difference in swing speed and handling. Whereas with the 4U model, I'll probably end up with a very off-timed and poor shot as soon as I was out of position for the first one. Looking at the precision scan measurement numbers from the original 800 and comparing it alongside the newer 800 Pro also made a lot of sense too. Here's an extra one with the 1000Z as well. In summary, as this is a Nanoflare racket, speed is not an issue at all. You won't have lots of power with the 800 Pro, although the 3U model is more helpful in this regard. I also found that I needed a different timing for my smashes with the 800 Pro. If I catch the shuttle with my usual timing, I realized it was going flatter and had to let it drop just a little bit more just to get the angle I wanted. Maybe I was swinging too fast. Racket stiffness is actually pretty on point for me, it's just the string bed stiffness. I can't get on with the 4U, but I love the 3U 800 Pro. String the 800 Pro with a responsive string and you'll be able to feel the shuttle better as well. In terms of racket design, most companies generally focus on the racket's properties more by altering the frame, its shape and the shaft properties. But it's also nice to see Yonex adding focus onto the racket's string design too. I mean, we've seen that happen with the larger gaps and larger grommets for some of the Astrox models, as well as the hold time and feel with the Arc Saber rackets. That's been great for amateur players like us, as it helps us play better, hence being able to enjoy the game more at the same time. I get that headlight rackets need to be fast, but I'm not too sure about making the string bed denser. If I want a harder hitting feeling, I would have gone for a harder feeling strings or a higher string tension. Perhaps I need to try some softer strings for the 800 Pro too. Maybe time to go back to the Xbox 65 or 63. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.